Listen, I love a good bubble bath, but if a 20-minute soak was the answer to everything, we'd all be thriving, right? Welcome to Your Well Life, the podcast that goes way beyond self-care checklists and into the real work of healing, alignment, and actually feeling alive again. I'm Misha, trauma-informed transformation mentor, holistic health and life coach, and mom of 3, here to inspire you to break free from burnout, reconnect with yourself, and create a life that actually feels like home. And we're not pretending it's all deep and serious 24/7 because real growth, it's sacred, but it's also messy, hilarious, and sometimes best understood through a pop culture analogy. Each week, you'll hear inspiring stories of resilience, soulful conversations about healing, reinvention, optimizing your well-being, and honest insights to help you move from struggle to flow in motherhood, marriage, friendships, career, and beyond. I'm endlessly curious about what makes people tick and thrive, whether it's a breakthrough moment, a hidden grocery cart treasure, or even a Bravo show revelation. Because healing isn't just found in the heavy work, it's woven into the everyday human experience. Real life isn't polished, growth isn't linear, but within the real, raw moments, there's a path forward, and you don't have to walk it alone. Hit subscribe and let's get into it. Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Your Well Life. Today I'm sitting down with Jyoti Chand. She is known as Mama Jotes across all social media platforms. She is a mom of 3. She's a dynamic writer, a passionate advocate for self-care and maternal mental health. She is a former stand-up comic, and really her voice is exactly the honest, hilarious, and heartfelt medicine that the world needs right now. She has recently debuted her first graphic novel called Fitting Indian. It is raw, it is real, and it is deeply resonant and important, especially for anyone who ever felt like they didn't belong. In this conversation, we talk about her journey of growing up as an Indian woman in the US and how navigating dual cultures and cultural expectations influenced her becoming of self, and how that had both positive and negative effects, or I don't want to say negative, but how that influenced her mental health struggle and journey. We talk all about identity, as well as the messy and beautiful and real parts of growing into who we are. We talk motherhood, we talk breaking generational cycles. This conversation is a really incredibly powerful and important conversation because it is illuminating a lot of the things that so many of us struggle with silently. And I really feel that what Jyoti has done with her book and her platform is extremely brave and courageous. She is speaking and bringing forward really seemingly taboo conversations that can be uncomfortable to talk about, but require being talked about so that there is less mental health struggle, so people can feel less alone. We can eradicate the shame so that we can really do the healing work that is required. It is the silencing, it is the shutting down, it is the lack of seeing ourselves represented, not having those conversations and not thinking we're all alone in it, that contributes to the shame and the struggles that many people face. So I'm just really grateful to have had the opportunity to sit down with her and talk to her about how she went from this place where she was in deep depression and really struggling in her mental health in some pretty extreme ways, to now being such an embodied, confident woman who is running a full brand with all of these creative projects, writing books, exploring going film and other things, and how she got to that point. So we talk about all the things. It is a really relatable and enjoyable conversation if you have ever struggled with any of these things. So I hope that this is healing and helpful and resonant for you. I do want to mention a trigger warning. This conversation does touch on suicide. And so if you are in the car with kids or not in that place, please just be aware that this conversation might not be appropriate for young children. And if this episode touches something in you, if it resonates, if it moves you, or if you just feel a little less alone, I'd be so grateful if you shared it, if you sent it to a friend who needs it, or share it on Instagram or in your stories and tag me. These are the conversations that really need to be heard, and your share might be the exact thing that someone else needs. And also, it's how I get these important conversations to the hearts and the souls that need it, how we help keep this show going. So I would really appreciate if it touches you, if you know someone who would resonate with it, if you share it. And if you're loving this show, if you're relating to it in any way, please leave a rating and review. It's the most supportive way to support this podcast. Also, if you have a question you want me to answer or for a future guest, you can leave a voice note through SpeakPipe. The links are in the show notes. And if you want to go deeper into powerful conversations like this, receive monthly practices, real life support, and soul nourishing community, come join us inside the Well Circle on Substack. It's $12 a month, and it is made for mamas like you who crave truth, tenderness, and a safe space to exhale. You can join via the link in the show notes as well. Now, let's dive into this potent conversation with Jyoti Chand. So I would love if it's okay with you to dive right in and
I would love to.
and talk about what inspired fitting India. And I know it's rooted in a little bit of your own mental health experience,
Yeah.
but could you take us back to what led you to the story and how you landed on this very unique format of a teen graphic novel?
Yeah. So let's start with why I wrote it as a graphic novel. So it is so much easier to read a graphic novel. Graphic novels are less intimidating. They can be read in one sitting. There's a satisfying feeling of being able to sit down and finish an entire story. It has a cinematic experience, and it is easier to convey difficult topics to teenagers through graphic novel format. And so I used this format because I felt like it could get into more hands. And it worked because I know that multiple generations have been able to read this book without fail. And then the story
So
itself
true.
is inspired by my own mental health journey. When I was 18 years old, I tried to take my own life. I struggled with depression and anxiety. I went to therapy for the first time. I leaned on my family for the first time in that way. And I'm still here today, so I'm very grateful 18 years later. Let me turn that off. Did you hear that beeping sound?
It's okay. It always happens to me too. I didn't even hear it till you mentioned it, but yeah, go ahead. Take care
Yeah,
of
okay.
it.
Let me just turn it off. How do I do this?
That's usually me. So,
Focus. Got it. Do not
yep.
disturb. Beautiful. Okay. And so I it was 18 years ago. I'm still here today. I'm thriving, and I wanted to share this story not only for my younger self. It was a great healing journey to write, but
Yes.
also for adolescents today, which is why I fictionalized it and added elements of today into it. I just felt like it couldn't relate to kids today without the aspect of social media and virality, just like going viral and like
Yeah.
viral videos and things like that. And that's a huge part of Natasha's journey in the book is her own struggle with alcohol, cutting, self-harm, suicide ideation attempt, and not to give too much away, going viral on a social media platform. And yeah, I really resonate with Natasha. She's definitely a 16-year-old version of me. I had to look back into my own diaries from my teenage years to pull that angst out because it's like you lose that like teenage angst. You forget.
Yes. So many things to talk about. First, I just want to say it's so funny because by the way, I'm a fellow mom of three and also a fellow mom of three fur babies. So I feel like I can relate to you on that. But
Ah,
my oldest is 11, and it's true. She like really loves reading the graphic novels. And I just,
1 second. It's the fur babies. Yeah. I
okay.
got rid of the other babies to the park.
But yeah, I guess I wanted to speak to, first of all, as it relates to your journey and you being able to like own that vulnerable journey and put it out to the world, like what was that process like? I know that as someone who also feels I can relate to a lot of the things that you've shared, but there's a lot of, I guess, shame or vulnerability or stuff that comes up. And how did you work through really expressing that? What came up along the way and what was the outcome in that was so healing and the resonance maybe from your family? I think you mentioned.
Yeah. One of the things that was, I'm going to work backwards on that question. One of the things that was really healing about it is when my mom read the book, she cried. And When she finished reading the book, she openly shared some of her own mental health journey with me, something that wasn't like a previous deep conversation between us. Yes, there were some things that were known, but there was a lot that wasn't. I learned that she went to group therapy like secretly. She
Wow.
was in her early 40s. She was struggling with depression and she wanted help, and it was like looked down upon. There's so much stigma. And so to learn like these little things about my mom and others who have come out of the weeds and been like, can I share my story with you? You shared your story with us. I want to tell you. And it's like that ability to be able to be like, let me tell you what I went through is also healing for that person. So it's almost like a ripple effect. It is a really vulnerable thing to share, right? I'm going out there and being like, hey, look, guys, I failed and failed and failed and failed so many times, but that's who made me who I am today. So it is
Yes.
okay. But the other thing I've also learned is that as an influencer, you start to care less what people think, especially people who don't put food on your table. Like you're like,
Yeah.
meh, like you don't really affect me because you're not, you don't have the weight or say in my life. And so I know that what I'm doing is going to have a positive ripple effect for many.
Yes.
And if some people have something bad to say about it, they can go think about it in the corner. It's still engagement. I'll take it.
Totally. 100%.
Hey, there's no such thing as bad PR, okay? You can talk
Agree.
crap about the book. I don't care.
Brings
It's
more.
great.
Yeah.
And I really just care about my core circle, like my husband, my children, my parents, my brothers, my closest friends. Like those are the kind of the people that I think about when these things happen, or if I feel like I'm getting a lot of judgment from one arena, like I'll be like, I'll really break it down. Because it does feel bad to not be liked or to be talked about in a negative light. It feels bad as a human.
Yeah. No, and it's interesting because I feel like it's one thing to your point, like not care what strangers on the internet say, but I feel all the aunties and uncles
Yes,
that, do you know what I mean? You're like,
I
okay,
do.
and then so it's I feel like it's so incredible because I feel like you're taking a stand for something that, to your point, even your parents and probably so many other of the generation are needing that, like almost like permission and opening for them to actually have that conversation and process their own healing that they've had to shove down. And it's so admirable. And so, yeah, oh my goodness. And talk to me about how, so was the healing process for you in the writing or after or both of it? Or
It
all
was
of it?
definitely both of it. So
Yeah,
both, all
yeah,
of
I know.
it.
I don't,
That's
sorry about that.
what are we doing? So writing it itself and going back to those teenage journals and reading through how angry I was with my parents and how much like I hated just life in general and how much I tore myself down as a girl and a woman and my body. And there was just so much in there that I was like, wow, like I was hurting. Like I was hurting so badly back then, and I didn't know what to do with that. And that part of it was healing to see that like, you see like where I am now and the journey that brought me here and how important it is to like have had those experiences back then. And then the other part of having people read the book, cry during my book tour. I had people break down crying and telling me their own mental health journey, that all of it together was just like, oh wow, like I felt less alone because I wrote the book so like other people feel less alone. But then at the
100%.
end, I ended up feeling less alone.
I think that's the beautiful thing about vulnerability is that it helps us eradicate our own shame and it opens us up to connecting, like helping other people eradicate it, feel more connected and the fears and struggles that we all have our own version of. And but it does require capacity and courage. And so that's just incredible. I also want to say, and I guess a little trigger warning to anyone listening, which I'll mention at the beginning, but something that just came up for
Yes.
me unprompted when you, so as it relates to the piece of the suicidal piece, I think that, so I had a niece who took her life at the age of 22, Indian obviously,
So sorry.
and this was a few years ago. And it's funny because I know you've mentioned once before about being overstimulated and wearing the loops at me too. And I sense that maybe you're also like an empathetic, highly sensitive person. And I feel that this person, I always really, this relative of mine, I felt very attuned to her and her, like she was like vegan and very cared so much
Yeah.
about the earth and all these things. What I'm getting at is that I felt that she didn't have she didn't see to your she didn't see she didn't feel like she had anyone to go to that really understood her, or she didn't see herself reflected. She didn't feel like she had people that really could like resonate with her. And I think it's that loneliness in what you're going through that and
Yeah.
that prevent
It's
that.
like when you feel alone in a crowded room. Like,
Exactly. And that's what I feel like with your book. I think if I'd love for you to speak about like you choosing to, I think I heard you say something about you used to write with like white people as a
yes,
protagonist. So I'd love for you to talk about why you wanted to do a South
yes.
Asian, all of that piece. Yes.
First off, my heart goes out to your family for that because that is never an easy thing to go through. And you always feel helpless in the end as somebody who is part of their life. I personally chose to write stories with South Asian characters. One, because all my teachers are like, write what you know, write what you know. I was like, oh, I could be a main character. You're telling me that a brown girl can be a main character? And so that's what we did. That's what I started doing is writing
It's
these.
like,
I know it is really so simple to say and then so mind blowing when you actually do it. You're like, oh, it's that. Okay. So this is how
yeah.
we get more stories out there is that we create more unique characters that are very like different. Like we're not fitting a trope, right? We're not following this
Mhm.
like South Asian trope of the girl who gets married and blah. Like, yes, there are still tropes because some of those tropes are cultural.
Right.
Do we all have great big weddings? The majority of us do. Do we mostly get married? The majority of us do. And there are still these like cultural norms. But I will say the more South Asian stories and main characters that we see that fall into different aspects, struggling with their mental health, LGBTQ, transitioning, all of these are going to help the youth and the adolescent today feel less alone in their own problems and struggles and changes and growth and all of that. And so I want my kids to be able to see themselves reflected in mainstream media, right? You know,
Yeah.
now we're seeing so much more of it. Like when you and I grew up,
No,
oh,
I will say, do you know what the Indo-American Arts Council is?
no.
So my mother founded the organization. I think it might have been 1998, but it's basically an arts organization that promotes the awareness of South Asian arts in the
Oh,
US in all mediums. And she basically got brown faces in the media. And I watched her. Was premiered Slumdog Millionaire here. She has Mira Nair on her board, Salman
what?
Rushdie.
Your mom sounds amazing. She sounds like a pioneer.
She is. She is. She's like always in the press. She's like a very but she's now passed it over. She retired like a few years ago. But I having a mother who was like a trailblazer in that way, in that literally was like adamant about bringing that to the forefront was so incredible because I felt very exactly like you said, I felt very lost. And I think as someone who I guess is passing, and my sister is adopted, and so she has blonde hair, and my mother was born with blonde hair, and my grandfather had green eye. Like you were Cindy. So I always grew up being very not feeling like I fit anywhere. The Indian people didn't really think I was Indian. The
Yeah.
non-Indian people, I wasn't really. I would love to hear about your upbringing.
The dual
Yes.
identity crisis that we've
Yeah.
all faced in some way.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Natasha's story too in the
Mhm.
book Fitting Indian. It's
Mm.
about her inability to fit in at home and her inability to fit in at school. She's too Indian for school and too American for home. For me, my story was a little bit different because I am actually Indo-Burmese. And so,
Oh,
yeah, my family's from Burma. And so
interesting.
we're so different. Like, I really didn't feel like I fit in with the Indians because that I mixed Burmese and Hindi words all the time. And like I thought Kaswe was Hindi for the longest time, but it just means noodles in Burmese. And so I think that for me, I was always a little bit of mix of both cultures of Indo-Burmese, and then put me in La Puente, California, where everyone's 95% Hispanic, and I thought I was Mexican until I was like 5. And I literally did. I was
Yeah.
like, am I Mexican? I look like Mexican. And those other brown people, so same, same.
You could be.
Yeah. And so I stood out, especially after 9/11, stood out like a sore thumb. Bailey. Okay. Sorry. thought if I put them away, they wouldn't bark. And I forgot the question. See, this is what dogs
No, you
do.
were saying about talking about fitting Indian, how they trying to fit in,
Yeah,
not
the dual identity crisis. And that was something a lot of people said they related to in the book, is this inability to fit in. And I mean, we feel that as adults. I mean, I
yes.
know I do.
100%. It's so interesting too, I think, because like you speak to, okay, so like in my mind, I thought because I didn't look traditionally Indian, I thought people who looked more Indian didn't deal with this, but I found myself going to Hebrew school, CD, all these places trying to find community. Anyway, long story short, I every time I talk to other Indians, even ones that look more traditionally, everyone has their own story of feeling this way. All of the ABCDs here, and it's just really interesting how, yeah, it is just like such a we're like our own species or
Yeah,
something.
my illustrator, Tara Anand, was
Uh-huh.
actually born and raised in Mumbai. And she shared on the book tour how when she was illustrating this book, she never thought, because she was born and raised in India, she never really thought of her Indianness as anything other than
Oh
normal.
wow.
And to hear that perspective was so amazing because I was like, geez, that's what everybody was. We were all Indian. And like it was their
Yeah.
Indianness. So then I'm like, I think that this NRI, American Indian culture, is a culture within itself. Like we
A
aren't Indian,
100%.
we're Indian American, and it's a whole nother culture. Like we
It
cannot
is.
compare the two. And so I think that's always important to realize because it's, yes, it's a dual identity, but also that's the identity. Like
Yes.
we're
No,
dual
it
identities.
Yeah, exactly. And having to like, yeah, navigate the way we both like two different cultures, two different ways of upbringing, like all of that into the and blend it. It's like a constant process of integration and like figuring out our own way forward in this real time, which never been done before because our parents, I
Yeah.
think your parents, yeah. Okay, I want to go back real quick to when you started therapy, was that something that was accepted in your family? Or did you do it under the radar? Like, how did you?
When I first went, I only went for a couple sessions at school because it was free.
This
You
is
know
in
what I
high
mean?
school or
No,
college?
college.
Okay. Okay.
Under university at UC Riverside, it was
Okay.
free. And so I went for a couple sessions and I had told my dad I started going to therapy and he was like, don't tell them anything too personal. I think he thought it was going to go on like a permanent record or something and then nobody would marry me.
Oh my
He was
God.
afraid of me getting a diagnosis that I couldn't reverse. Like it was a
Right.
fear of his. And I did get a diagnosis. I had generalized anxiety disorder. I didn't actually get the there was a fly. I didn't get the diagnosis until I was 23 or 24 when I went back to psychiatry. A psychiatrist was going through a terrible breakup. And so I did go to therapy more situationally in those like early 20s. But I feel like my parents were just worried about saying too much. They're like, no, you're telling somebody a lot of stuff and then they're going to know everything and it could ruin your life. And I think
Yeah.
that's the general consensus at that time.
Yeah. And is my mother, like yesterday, I was actually having a little meltdown city and I called my mom and my mom was like, she would always, she's look outside, go for a run, look at the sun, do that. I'm like, no, just allow me to feel what I need to feel. Like, is that your parents' approach or what's like, it's going to be fine. Chin up.
Um,
Mm.
yeah, no, it was you'll be fine. For my parents' approach, my parenting approach is a little bit different where I'm like, feel your feelings, but also let's go on a walk.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I always share, hey, getting in the sun makes me feel better. Doing a workout makes me feel better. Dancing around makes me feel better. So what can you do right now to help yourself feel better?
Yeah.
So what can you do? It's we work on that. So there is both, right? Like
Yeah.
this whole like concept of all right, shake it off, go outside kind of situation, but also feel your feelings. And it's
Yeah.
okay. And let's talk
Yeah.
about it.
Totally.
Let's name your feelings. And that's something we didn't get to do a lot of growing up is naming our feelings and understanding why we felt the way we felt because it was hard to be just we got shut down a lot, or at least I did. Like my parents are really good parents, and I say
Yeah.
this all the time, where they're amazing and they did what they could with what they had
Yep.
and what they knew. And so it's our job as parents, as we generation by generation, we undo a little bit of that generational toxicity and drama. And so like undoing a little bit now, but I'm sure my kids are going to undo a lot more too. And so I just think that in general, my parents weren't ready to deal with mental health at that time yet, even though they were
Yeah.
experiencing so much of it themselves.
You guys, your well life has just gotten an upgrade, and it's honestly one of the things I've been wanting to offer for the longest time. Because honestly, the most powerful thing in healing comes from when we feel witnessed and someone shares something that helps unlock awareness in ourselves. So many of you tell me the same thing, that hearing how someone actually navigates the hard stuff, the mindset, the shifts, the stumbles, the tools, is what helps you feel less alone, less ashamed, more connected, more seen, and helps to illuminate where you might be either feeling the same or actually can implement those things for your own journey. So that's why I created this private podcast space. There are parts of my journey that are honestly too tender, too nuanced, or too sacred for social media, for the public. But those are the very stories that tend to unlock something in others. These are the shares that aren't polished or performative. They're real. They're for the ones who crave honest, behind the scenes glimpses into how I'm walking through healing, motherhood, nervous system recovery, marriage, business, identity, life. So for $8 a month, you'll get access to these deeper, more personal audio drops, honest reflections I don't share publicly, real-time glimpses into what I'm walking through, the tools, practices, and shifts I'm using to move through it. So if my public podcast speaks to you, this is where it gets even more nourishing. So subscribe to the private podcast feed, link below. And if you want the full experience, my Substack is where this all comes together. So in your Well Circle on Substack for $12 a month, you'll receive everything the private podcast has, plus monthly audio and written drops of tools, practices, and rituals, soul-led reflections to support your well-being journey, access to community threads and conversations with other moms walking this path, invitations to private circles and behind-the-scenes shares. It's really your soft place to land, to be in connection and in a village for your healing. And it's a space where resonance, reflection, and real life support on your own time, low lift, because ain't nobody got time for anything else. That link is below. Do you want your voice to be part of the podcast? You have a question you want me to answer on the show, or something you're moving through that you want my perspective on? You can share your story or ask a question directly, anonymous or not, using the link in the comments. I'll feature your share on air and respond with insight, support, and love. Let's keep making this space a place where we heal together. Yeah, totally. No, 100%. I think it's like completely foreign to them, I feel like, too. So they were doing the best they
But
could.
also like lack of education on
Yeah.
it and just all of that, not knowing really what is depression, like it's not just
Yes.
sadness and all of that. And so I was telling the kid, I went to go speak to a group of students at University of Texas called the Mental Health Initiative for South Asians. They're amazing. There's this group and they're creating this amazing organization that's going to religious, like they're going to the right places to teach mental health education, like
Oh,
temples, mosques,
amazing.
gurdwaras. Yeah. And so they're really trying to reach this, like, they say our parents' generation, but they're really talking about us, like our age.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, your parents are like 5 years older than me. And so I had told them because they were like, what's the best way? Because they feel like they just like shut us down. And I'm like, the best way, I'm like, you wouldn't teach a kid how to read without teaching them their alphabets first. So start there.
They need the
Start
language. They
small.
need to
Give them the
understand.
language.
Yes.
Exactly.
I just have to share this anecdote because I think it's hilarious. So my daughter, who's 11, was like, blah, 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 blah. Lily, her friend, has 4B. And I was like, what's 4B? And she's like, basically telling me that 4B is her hair curl type. And I was like,
Oh,
oh. And she was like, you don't know what 4B hair curl type is? I was like, no. She's like, they didn't have that when you grew up. I was like, we didn't know what nervous system regulation was, our hair
yeah.
curl type. I didn't know anything. I was like, if I
No.
knew my hair type, if I knew what was going, I would have been. We were just like a blind, like running around like a mess.
We just
Like
have blue eyeshadow everywhere and then called it a day.
I was like, the language and the specificity and the knowledge that they have is such a different level. Anyway, I digress.
Amazing.
Okay, I want to talk about, to your point, you getting from a place of being and suicidal to now being this like fully embodied, confident, fully expressed woman that doesn't care what people on the internet say, who's the most incredible voice of
Yeah.
incredible mother. Can you talk about what
Yeah.
you feel contributed to that?
One of the contributions to that is marrying a psychiatrist super helps.
Oh,
Let me tell
really?
you.
Is he a
Yeah,
psychiatrist?
yeah.
Get out. That's thing.
So my husband's a pediatric psychiatrist, and honestly, I feel bad because I'm like use him as my therapist more than I need to.
That's
Um,
awesome.
it is great. Secondly, I am on a nice dose of Zoloft that I have been on through motherhood. Motherhood was very anxiety inducing for me. I think a lot of stimulation and a lot of being needed and a lot of touching and all of that. I had starting around, I did take Zoloft in my early 20s. I got off of it, got pregnant, didn't get back on it, had another pregnancy with my second pregnancy pretty shortly after with a 7 month old. And so that pregnancy, I had a lot of prenatal anxiety and depression. So to the point where they were pretty sure I was going to have PPD, but I ended up not because we were really aware. Like my husband was like, all right, what are we doing to help you not be depressed? And having that awareness in your relationship is so helpful because he really
Huge.
does understand panic attacks. He understands all of that. So around like 2021, I started having really bad panic attacks, paralyzing anxiety, all this stuff with these like two under two, COVID, no help, right? Like it was just, and I was drinking a lot. And it was just a very ugly cycle. And so my husband was like, I think it's time for you to revisit, talk to your doctor, obviously, because he can't prescribe it to me. Talk to your doctor and see if you can revisit Zoloft. And so we started back up and I had not gotten off. Like I think that it has helped me tremendously, and I've lowered my dose, I've raised my dose, I've lowered it again, like things like that. But I think Zoloft has helped a lot. The other thing that really helps is the little tiny changes that I've made in my life, my habits. I'm very intentional about writing down my gratitude
Mm,
and really taking in what I'm grateful for. I know it sounds so rude, but it really works.
no.
Like, I think when you sit down, you're like, oh, I'm so grateful just to have this space and this day and the sun. And the tiniest things can make us just feel so much better and change our brain chemistry. And when we start focusing on those things instead of, oh, the kids are so loud, oh my God, everything's such a mess. And when we look at it and we shift it and go, my kids are enjoying themselves and we have so much that I can make a mess. And it
Yes.
just shifting that, I think it
Yes.
really changes our brain chemistry into being a little bit happier.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think first of all, to your point, it's so true of sometimes like I'll look at like the messy kitchen and I'm like, this reminds me of the full life I have, like the full
Yes,
heart I have. And also something that I do if it's like another take on what you shared about gratitude, but like when I find myself like being upset about certain things, I'm like, okay, what's working? These are all the things that are not working. What's working? And then I'm like, oh, this is working. This is work like in my life. And so it's so true.
exactly.
And then you're like, okay, let's focus there. And there's always, my aunt gave me this picture where there's like all these ducks in a row and one's out of the row. And she gave it to me because I used to always say, I'm going to do this when all my ducks are in a row. And she was like, this was symbolic of when these ducks gonna get like when some of the ducks are get in a row, another one's gonna always get out. There's always gonna be another duck. And I just thought that was so cool to be in this space of honoring that like perpetual evolution of life. So yeah, I love that. Okay, let's talk about your evolution from how did you know that given that you have done so much incredible work with your platform and just so many different initiatives, how did you know that this was the time to write the book? How did it all come together?
I actually wrote it in 2021. Yeah, I
Oh,
did. I wrote it in 2021, right when I went sober, the first draft, got an agent, edited it, sold it to HarperCollins the summer of 2021.
wow.
And then it took us a year to find an illustrator because I was very specific to find a South Asian woman who can portray the story because I really felt like I wanted it to be very authentic in that way.
Yep.
And then we had to skip election year, just a publishing thing.
Mhm.
Came out in 2025.
Oh my God, incredible. So it's been a long time in the making. So,
I wrote this book when I had 15,000 followers.
wow. Wow. But how did you, and so I know you were, I believe you were a creative writing major.
Yeah,
Is that so you've
hmm
always had this in you? And then
yes.
what was the evolution of, I know you talked about like the impetus of it, but was there a reason you started it then, or was it just timing, capacity, you were ready?
It was necessity. I
Yes.
was stuck in the house with two
Mm,
kids who were 3 and 1
yeah.
during, and I
Yeah.
was like pulling my hair out. And then I was like, all right, I'm going sober. I can't
Yep.
drink anymore. And then I thought it was temporary that I was going to go sober, but I've been sober for 4.5 years now.
I love
And
it.
then because of, so there's this thing when you stop drinking, there's a thing called sober productivity. It's like
Yeah.
all of a sudden, all that time you spent drinking has been replaced with something else. You're just like, oh, I have
Hmm.
all this, I have time. Like this is like with a clear head, and I'm
Yeah.
able to wake up without a feeling any kinds of inflammation and nastiness. And so I started waking up at 5 a.m. just to write. And
Love it.
it was like the thing, it was the house was, I still do it. I still wake up at 5:30. Like today I woke up at 5:30 and just sat on the deck. Like
Hmm.
it was just,
My favorite.
there's something about, yeah, like
The morning
pre-kids
before.
waking up, before the
Yes.
hustle, before the noise,
A
the house was
100%.
quiet. Like, and so I'd wake up and I would start writing for about an hour and a half until somebody woke up and was like, Mom, right? And then I was like, all right. And it just made my day go better. And so
Oh,
that was one of those, it was a necessity. And it was actually a story I felt like needed to be told. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I've been saying that I want to write a book for so long. I majored in it. I went to a master's program and I've written so many unfinished projects that I was like, you know what? This is a project I'm going to finish.
commit to. Oh,
And I
so
committed.
good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the best feeling. And major congrats on like finally getting there with all of these things. On the sober piece, I would love to hear. So I'm a funny one when it comes to labels. Like I haven't drank in maybe 11 years, but like I've never, I have an 11-year-old, but maybe it might have been 12 years. I don't know, but I just never, I don't know, when I started with my first have I never was a big drinker. Like I feel like started in my late 20s, I gave it up and then it just petered out. I just was like, it just doesn't make me feel good. I don't need to do it. It creates
Yes.
anxious. But like, why am I putting
That's
poison in
fair.
my body? But I really struggle with labels. I feel like if I was at a wedding and I felt like one, which I never do, but I just get I something happens in my body when I feel boxed in. Oh, you're paleo.
Yeah.
Oh, you're this. How do you feel? Do you feel like I don't know?
Yeah, I think for me it was more of like a problematic drinking. I felt like
Mm,
because it wasn't, I was not what I would say as a media portrays an alcoholic, okay?
yeah.
But I've learned after going through this journey that alcoholism is a spectrum and it's different for everybody. So alcohol was impacting my life in a negative way. Even
Mhm.
though it didn't, like, I wasn't broke, I wasn't drunk driving, I didn't put my kids in harm. There
Right.
wasn't waking up and having a bottle of alcohol. It wasn't like that. It
Yeah.
was just that alcohol was everywhere. Like it was at
Yeah.
the park, it was at play dates, it was at the birthday parties. It was like, it's a kid's birthday. Why do we have alcohol there? There's just alcohol everywhere to the point where it got exhausting. It was like
Yeah.
main character in my life that I couldn't have fun without anymore, if that made
Yeah.
sense. And
Totally.
so once COVID came and we're drinking by ourselves and we're on Zoom and we're just like, it just got heavier and heavier and it was weighing me down. Like
Yeah.
I could feel the sobriety needing to happen, but I also kept coming back. It's just like me and sugar. Me and processed
Yeah.
sugar have a similar relationship right now. No, I'm just kidding. We're fine now,
I feel you.
but yeah, I just started learning more and doing my due diligence and reading sober literature,
Yeah.
learning about the effects of alcohol, which is really just ethanol on our bodies. And I'm all about clean beauty and clean cleaning products and clean this, but nothing's no. As Holly Whitaker said in her book, no toxic eyeliner is going to kill you as fast as alcohol. And so
Yeah.
just those things.
That's
And I
right.
love that 4.5 years later, the amount of normalization it is to
Ye-
say no to a drink now and having all these options of
yes.
non-alcoholics, mixed cocktails, like still feeling like you're part of the party because you have this beautiful, like non-alcoholic margarita that's made with a zero proof spirit. And it's, oh my gosh,
I
makes it so easy.
agree. I agree. It's so much easier, even like sober, like bars and all these things. I have a question though that comes up with a lot of my South Asian clients. And this is something that like I personally have never struggled with, but I wonder if you have any words of wisdom. And that is that there, several people struggle with the pressure of when they don't want to drink and people feeling like they're either not going to be invited or what do they, and I'm like, why do other people care? If I personally don't get it, but it seems to
Yeah,
be a recurring
I get it.
thing.
I get it. When I was drinking, if someone didn't want to drink, it felt like a personal insult because you know
Really?
that you're doing something not good for yourself.
Ah,
It's like when you tell your husband, "Ooh, do you want to have cake?" And he's no, and I'm like, "Come on!" And you
yes,
really want to have cake, but you also want to like him to have cake, so you're not the only one having the cake.
yes, 100%.
That's
Very,
that's what that feeling is like. It's like you're gonna have a drink, and the person you're hanging out with is, "No, I'm good. I'm not gonna drink. It doesn't feel good or
you're
whatever.
like,
I don't want
fuck.
to." You're like, "Come on,
Yeah,
just
don't
have
make
a
me feel
little
bad.
bit.
Yeah,
Don't make me feel
feel
bad for
bad.
wanting to have a drink, to wanting to have my cake."
Yeah,
Okay. And so there's this, yeah, it's like an internalization, right? You feel
yeah.
bad now because you're doing something that you know is bad for your body, and
They
you probably,
project it.
and then you project it. And so that's why a lot of people have said that. And I've gotten this multiple times that when I share about my sobriety, it comes off as judgmental. And I'm like, if you feel like it comes off as
That's on
judgmental,
you.
that's a sign that you need to
Yes.
explore it a little bit. Because
If it's
if I,
triggering you.
if it's triggering you, because it triggered me too. And that's what I always
Mhm.
tell people when I was drinking and I would see accounts on social media sharing about mommy wine culture and blah blah blah, and it would trigger me too. And I'd be like, dude, no, like you're just doing it wrong, or dude, no, like we need it, like kind of thing. I felt the
Yeah.
same way. I had blocked accounts that did that. Follow, unfollow, follow, unfollow. Turns
Right?
out you could feel it. And so if you ever hear somebody, not just me, but anybody talking about alcohol consumption or overconsumption, choppy consumption, all
Up
kinds of stuff like
shopping.
that, and it's a whole new avenue I've pursued. And,
Loved your
you
post
know,
on that.
thanks. Really just sit with it and ask yourself, why does this affect me so much?
Yeah.
Do I have a problem that I need to look up? It doesn't have to be all or nothing, you guys. Like, okay, with alcohol, for me, it was all or nothing. I can't moderate. I'm not good at it. We tried that route.
Right.
But with shopping is something that I had to also pull back from because I feel like I just transferred from one addiction to another, especially as an influencer.
Yeah.
You get so much stuff and then it becomes like a norm. And I'm not someone who
Yes.
likes that much stuff. And so I was constantly like purging, and realized after a documentary and a talk with my son that overconsumption is a problem. And I pulled completely back, took a six-figure pay cut from posting like links and stuff, like affiliate linking. And it's been great.
That's incredible. No, I feel like just going back to what you said about how you were like, if earlier in our conversation, if people are triggered by whatever it is that you were writing about in your book, you were like, I don't care what they have to say. Like that's on them to sit with. And it's like the same thing with with respect to this, or like any of those things. Like if you're feeling something, it's really not about the person that's sharing the thing. It's about the person who's feeling triggered. I just love
Yeah.
that. And with the consumption, yeah, it's so interesting how no matter what it is, whether it's like taking on drinking or eating sugar, like you said, or consuming anything, it's that reactionary behavior to get out of our body because it's too uncomfortable to sit in it. And so I love that you have so much conversation around so many of these things that people don't really understand how to like, don't have the awareness around all the aspects. So
Yeah,
that's
that's the word, awareness. As long as we're aware, we could do better.
be
And I
conscious
feel
of
like,
it. Right.
yeah, be conscious. No one has to be perfect. If
No, and
you
we're
want
never
to go shop the Zara sale because you really need three new tops, go do
go,
it.
yeah,
But be conscious of what
right.
you're doing.
If you're doing it from a place of intention or if you're doing it in a place to numb or if you're right, exactly.
Same with drinking,
And the same with
okay?
drinking, exactly. Okay,
But don't do
let's
drugs. Okay.
okay, so let's talk about your parenting. I would love to know what are some of the ways that your mom of three, what are some of the ways that you're like parenting differently than how you were raised, given your healing journey and all the cycle breaking that you do?
So I try not to yell. That's just one thing off the bat. I
Mhm.
hated it when either of my parents yelled in the house. And it really triggered me in my adult relationships when anyone raised their voice. Like I would
Yes.
just, yeah. And
Same.
so I try really hard not to yell. And I was in like a verbally abusive relationship in my early 20s. And it
Mm,
was very, I didn't realize that it wasn't normal. And I'm so glad I got out of it. I'm luckily married to a man who has never once raised his voice at me. So
that's
I love that.
incredible.
Have I gotten very firm with my kids? Absolutely. I discipline them. I'm not screaming my head off at them.
Yeah.
And if I have, which I have,
Yeah.
and I will say that I apologize to them
And
and
you'll
repair the
repair.
situation almost immediately.
Mm.
And I always end it with, you don't deserve to be yelled at no matter what you do. Because
Yeah.
that's something kids need to hear over and over again. Because I've always felt like, oh, I deserved that because I XYZ. I always
Yeah.
tell my kids, I hate when they hear, oh, we got yelled at because we weren't listening. It's not your fault you got yelled at.
Yeah.
You weren't listening. Mommy got frustrated. Mommy couldn't handle her own emotions and she yelled at you, so it's not your fault.
Yeah. And mommy
And
maybe
so
didn't have the capacity. You were just being a kid. Yeah.
and then I always say, I am human and I'm
Yeah.
still growing and I'm still learning.
Mm,
I'm sorry. And I think that those little things are things I didn't get growing up. I didn't get I'm sorry's or I'm
same.
human, those things. Like I saw my parents as like gods, like idols. Like, and then
Mhm.
when I turned, like they were perfect. And when they had their moments and we all saw it, but we didn't see it as anything other than perfect because we didn't talk about it. So that was our norm, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Like even when we saw blow ups and arguments and stuff like that, I didn't ever saw them as human until I was in my early 20s where I realized like my parents had an entire life before I existed.
Hey, mama, imagine if healing your stress patterns could change everything. Because it can. Whether it's reacting in ways you don't recognize, people pleasing, or overthinking, these patterns stem from unresolved trauma stored in your body. They create chronic stress, impacting your health, relationships, and how you show up in life. That's why I created the Align and Thrive Workbook, a free 5-day mini training designed to help you heal at the root. You'll learn what trauma is and how it's showing up in your body and life. You'll be guided through a proven 5-step process to heal and rewire these patterns, shifting from reactive and overwhelmed to aligned and in flow. You'll get a comprehensive workbook filled with practices and journal prompts to help you implement this work starting now. It's truly transformational. It's what I wish I had when I was struggling on my journey, and it's completely free. Download your Align and Thrive workbook for free today. Head to www.mishavayner.com/workbook and let's begin this journey together. You can also click on the link in the show notes and grab it today. Yeah. Yeah.
They lived a whole life before I
Yep.
came along. And my life isn't about their life is not all about me.
Yep.
They have all their own shit going on. And when you realize that about your own parents, you're like, oh, you start to forgive
Yeah.
them a little bit. You're like, oh,
Yeah, I agree. I think that that piece about just like really that humble connection and really just like being real that listen, I'm also on this journey. Just because I'm a parent doesn't mean I have it all figured out. It's the first time I'm a parent. It's the first time I have kids XYZ age. It's the first time. And I think that it opens up that kind of that comfort and that like dialogue that you can continue to have, which I think to your point is in I definitely grew up in a household where there was more authoritarian parenting from my parents, and it was like as I my parents too, I love them to death. They're incredible. And it was very much my father was very much women are subservient. Like you don't speak, even though he's incredible in a lot of ways. It was like you don't talk back, you don't. Da, da, da. I felt very like voiceless. I felt like I couldn't be my full self oftentimes, and no
or you
fault
were
of
too
his.
much. If
I
you
was too
were,
much. Yes, exactly. And I feel like so yeah, I feel like it is real. I think that piece is I'm far from perfect, and I think that look, I think that it's really the thing that gives me the peace too is just like being able to continuously be in that conversation, not being friends with them, but letting them feel comfortable and safe that like we can be vulnerable with each other and we can share
be
where went
friends
wrong.
when we're older.
Totally. Yeah.
because we're building those relationships now. Like I'm friends with my parents now because
Yes.
they've grown so much from my 20s to my 30s. Like they themselves have gone on a journey.
That's
Um,
incredible.
and so I think that with our kids, like them seeing that, oh, mom and me and Nana and Nani weren't always like this. They were my parents and they were telling me what to do. And, it was different back then. And so this is just how we are as parents. We just do the best we can for you. And then when we're older, we can hang.
Yeah, totally. Um,
Hopefully.
how do you, as it relates to the identity piece, I'm just curious as it relates to raising your children, how do you, is there anything that you take into account in the way that you raise them to help them feel really rooted in themselves in this, as we talked about, us having this like kind of new expression? I don't know what type of
like that
identity.
dual identity kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, so they know that they're Burmese, Indian, and American. So for us, a lot of it revolves around food.
Hmm.
Being introduced to, we eat a lot of Indian food at home, like Punjabi food. I cook that, and my mother-in-law cooks a lot of Burmese food. So I also
That's
married an
awesome.
Indo-Burmese guy.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So
Where did you meet? Okay.
yeah, my husband's parent, my husband's dad, and my dad went known each other from their teenage years in Burma, and so we're
Wow.
family friends. So I've known my husband my whole life.
Oh my,
And yeah, so he speaks Burmese. He was born in Burma. He can talk to my dad in Burmese. His mom cooks us Burmese food. It's very still, it's almost creepy how much it feels like I didn't leave home because I'm still home. Like it's weird.
I love that.
I do love it. I do love having that Burmese because it's so hard to find. There's not a lot of us Indo-Burmese
Yeah.
people. And so it's cool to let my kids get that same experience. Yeah, so we
Very
do a
cool.
lot of food,
Hmm.
dance, Bollywood
Mm.
dancing, obviously music, dancing, all of that. And then we've exposed them to the Hindu temple, the Samaj, as well as the Buddhist monastery that like how we grew up going. So it was like very similar to how we grew up. Like we went to both. And so they know our monk and then they know like the Lamont, we live in Lamont, Illinois. So they know the temple. We have a temple in the greater Chicago temple is here in our town, which
Oh,
is cool.
wow. So there must be a big
Yeah.
Indian population, no? Or
There is, yeah.
okay.
There's not a big Indian population coming from LA. Like you're like, no, it's 3%, but or
Mm.
something like that. But it's
Oh,
great.
enough.
I'll take
Yeah.
it for the
Yeah.
Midwest.
Yeah. We're in you grew up in East LA or somewhere in
I grew
LA?
up in West Covina.
West. Okay. So did you have a more bigger population there of Indians?
No, not in West
No.
Covina. We had a
Okay.
lot more Indians we just knew all the SoCal Indians because we all went to the same Mother,
Okay.
right? So my mom and dad had their like friends. We had our family there. We had our cousins or the
Yeah.
cousins that weren't really related to us. And we find out later, like our family
Yeah,
friends
yeah,
and all of that.
totally.
I thought my husband was my cousin until we like were adults.
Oh my God, totally. Because that's how it is. You're all just one bit. It's like
Auntie,
friends.
and yeah, it wasn't as much, but I did have an Indian circle to say. Like I had like my school friends and then I had like Mother friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And do you feel like, so did you feel like, even though you felt like you didn't fit in either place, do you think that kind of contributed to what led you to your depression? Or was it other things like that
I think
kind
it
of?
was just everything. I think just my period came late, my hormones,
Mm,
like not fully like fitting into my body. I felt like very immature in my body. I was very thin and just my wanting to rebel against my parents and everything. I didn't want to ever do what they wanted to do. They wanted me to
mhm.
be like, they always like positioned me in this like really good Indian girl. And I felt like I had to fill this role and I didn't always fill it well. And I felt like I would disappoint them if I didn't. And so I think a lot of things led to that
Mhm.
moment in itself and relationships and breakups and all these kinds of things that happened to me like imminent, like right before. And so I think at some point I just felt so ultimately lonely that I just was like, I can't do this anymore. But I will say that I, if I had someone to talk to, if I could just if I had met like 1 to 2 people that looked like me, came from a family like mine, and felt similar to me, that it would have felt a little less alone. And maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't have ended up in the hospital. I think
Mhm.
that's the work that we're doing now is to try to help our next generation of beautiful young men and women to reach out to each other and have conversations with each other. And like I said, when I went to U of T and I talked to these kids, I had asked a personal question, how many of you are dealing with depression right now? And two people raised their hands.
Wow.
And I was like, just that.
Yeah. Yes. And
Like
also
you raised
good,
your hand
very brave of them too.
and they're like, they're getting help.
That's incredible.
And it's like, there we go. We're getting it. We're doing that.
Yes. No, totally. And I feel like this is no, I love that you've actually started this new niche that is, I agree. I felt like very alone. And I feel like it's something that we really is the beginning of something much bigger. Do you feel that there's something more with this book that you want to do? Or this, you mentioned you're
Yeah.
going to talk to get schools.
Yeah, so I'm going to do school visits, and once school starts back up, I definitely want to
Mm,
be more on the ground talking to adolescents and just sharing my own story. So I just feel like it's really powerful to see someone who was there and is here.
yes.
Just because
Yes.
when you're stuck there, you can't see this
You want
future.
the evidence. Yes.
You want the evidence. And so you're like, hey, look, it can be better. It can change.
Yeah.
Don't have a permanent solution to a temporary problem. You can change this situation. Life does get better when we let it. And the other thing I want to do is obviously turn this book into something cinematic. And
Yes.
so I'm currently in conversations with some really cool people, taking meetings. Yeah, we'll see.
Incredible. I'm going to keep my fingers and toes crossed. It's so needed. And I'm so excited and proud and just moved by what you're doing because it really is. It's easy to say the things, but you really are doing something that's just, yeah, going to make such a difference. I feel like that's all we are seeking for when we're in that place of like scanning. Like, does anyone get it? Does anyone see
Yeah.
me? Can it be better? Who understands? Show me the way. And
Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret.
right. Oh my God. I want to just ask some like rapid fire questions.
Yes, love
Um,
rapid fire.
what's one thing helping you stay grounded right now?
Gratitude.
And what advice would you give other Daisy women or anyone who feels like they don't belong and is trying to find their voice?
Lean in on your community, and everything is fleeting. It will get.
Yeah. Okay. Your cool mom friend vibe is so beloved. How did you find that voice and what does it mean to hold space that way online?
I was very lonely and decided to come to Instagram to make some mom friends because motherhood was lonely. And
Mm,
I made a lot of mom friends.
yes, you sure did.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. So, last couple, I think you spoke to this, but in case there's anything you missed, what's next for you? I know you have another book in the works, maybe even
I have another book in the works that I am in edits for right now that I'm
two.
very slowly progressing on because I'm just loving my best summer life. And
Yes.
I have a very big thing happening at the end of August-ish. I want to say ish because we're just waiting on some final dates, but I will be teasing it in the next couple weeks.
Okay. I'll be watching. And where can people find you, follow your work, and get fitting Indian?
Instagram, TikTok. No, go stick with Instagram. Instagram, YouTube, Substack. I love Substacks. I'm just
I,
writing and stuff on there.
oh,
And then I'm mostly on Instagram if you want to DM me. I'm one of those weird people who answers the majority of
you
my
sure
DMs.
do.
And then Fitting Indian is sold everywhere books are sold.
Oh, I'm so excited and I'm gonna come Monday, so I'll be able to meet you in
Yes! Wait,
person.
oh my God.
Yeah,
Yay.
my
I'm so
mom might
excited.
come too, actually. So you
Wait, Karina's coming.
wait, do I know who Karina is? Oh,
My
the other
daughter,
person. Oh my,
my
oh my God.
baby.
I wish I could bring my 11-year-old. She's at sleepaway camp though.
Yeah, my
Oh my
baby's
God.
coming with me
Oh
to
my
New
God,
York.
that
We're
is
doing a girls' trip.
amazing. Oh, thank you so much for your time. This was so incredible. I'm so honored that you spent this time with me while you have so much going on. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me and for having this platform. I loved all the voices you bring on here, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, friends, what'd you think? I really hope you enjoyed listening and got value from this episode of Your Well Life. If you did, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review so we can spread the word to more mamas who can benefit from this content. It's truly my deepest mission to help as many mamas out there feel empowered, aligned, and in flow in their bodies and lives through this podcast. And even just sharing with one friend who you think can benefit helps. Want more from me? Well, then don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you can get notified each time a new episode drops. Oh, and make sure to get on my newsletter list where I send out weekly emails to support, nourish, and inspire you. And follow me on Instagram, where I'm the most active and share behind the scenes of my day-to-day life and insights I have along the way. I'm at Misha Vayner. I'm truly so grateful that you chose to spend your time with me and really hope to have you join along next week. Same time, same place. Bye for now.